Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the WRRAP podcast with me, Lee G. And joining me this week, I have Jamie and Nick. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good
Good
evening.
evening.
So Harley is sunning himself in Butlins for the week. He's spending a bit of quality family time. So have a nice one, Harley, and that he'll be back next week. Not a bad one to miss, to be honest. I'm not surprised that Harley couldn't find somebody to sit in for him. So we'll talk Wales, we'll talk all of that sort of stuff later. Let's just kick off as we normally do then with the news desk. Before Saturday happened, there was a whole load of news that all made people happy and smiley, James. So give us the news from last week, mate.
Yes, so some signings news to start off with. Dylan Lewis, he's returning to Wales after being signed by the Dragons. The 29-year-old has spent 2 seasons up at Harlequins and has made 28 appearances for them so far. He's currently out injured at the moment, I believe. But yeah, I think it's a good signing. Tight head is an area the Dragons needed to strengthen, of course, after the retirements of Lloyd Fairbrother and Leon Brown. So I think that's a pretty good pickup, very experienced, 50-plus caps for Wales. So I think that's a good pickup. And another player returning to Wales is, wait for this, Joe Hawkins. We didn't see that one coming, did we? He signed for the Scarlets from Exeter. It's the worst kept secret in Welsh rugby, isn't it? Let's be honest. Inside centre, but he's been signed as a fly half. And he's going to help Scarlets fill the void that's been left by Owen Lloyd, who's going to join Cardiff next season. So, yeah, we all saw that one coming. We discussed it on last week's pod, didn't we? So nothing more to add there. And then Ryan Combia, he signed a new deal to remain with the Ospreys. Very solid club player, of course, so he'll add a bit more depth to the Ospreys out wide. I presume you're happy with that one, Nick?
Yeah, great. He's fully deserves it. And as you say, it'll strengthen our options out on the wings where we probably needed it.
Yeah, absolutely. In other news then, Wales Online and the Daily Mail, they've put out a list of the final candidates that are being considered for the director of rugby job. I don't know if you guys have seen this list. It's quite something. So the leading candidate is Scott Johnson. Yes, him, formerly of Ospreys and Wales. He is the leading candidate so far, according to the Wales Online and the Daily Mail. The other candidates, have a listen to this. I mean, this really is low-hanging fruit, but have a listen to this list of candidates. Kingsley Jones, because he did such a good job at Canada, didn't he? Hugh Bevan, Hugh Wiltshire, don't know who he is. James Chaperon at the Dragons. Di Rees, Billy Millard. John Daniels as well, I believe, is on the list. And bizarrely, former Ireland internationals Guy Easterby and Jordan Murphy have been mentioned, which is random. I mean, if that's the best the Wales can attract, then I think we're in a bit of trouble here, aren't we? I mean, what are your opinions on that?
Didn't we talk to Jordan Murphy last year? When
we might have done for a different role, perhaps.
Yeah, I think we had when Carwin was on the pod. I think we talked. Yeah, go on, Nick. You've had a bit more. That's the first I've heard of the list. I've been out of action all day, so you've had a bit more time to digest and understand that list. Yeah, you crack on, Nick, and I'll chip in
it's
after.
Not, as I say, it's the opposite of inspiring. I just think how we've been set up here for Hugh Bevan, who's actually in situ to take over sort of Hobson's choice. I don't know much about Billy Millard. I think he was with Cardiff, if I remember.
He was, yeah. Been up at Harlequins as well.
Yeah, he might be an option. But, Scott Johnson would be a step in the wrong direction. We've already tried that once. There's a saying, isn't it? You never go back. He's never lasted very long wherever he's gone. He's, in my opinion, a bullshitter. And he's just not suitable at all for the role. I'd rather have nobody in the role than him.
Does it say in that report, Jamie, what the remit of the role? Director of rugby can be many things in many formats in many places. Does it say anything about, are they going to be in charge of the pathway as well as the senior game? Are they going to be community, semi-pro, full pro? Are they, is it the full stack or is it just the pro game? Is it just the national team? Have we got a scope as to what we're actually talking about?
No, not in these reports. The WRU did put out, didn't they, a job description quite recently, to, highlighting what's involved. I mean, I can't remember off the top of my head, but the WRU hopes to make a public announcement on their director of rugby by the end of March, and then they'll push forward with a coaching appointment, which I think is the right thing to do. I think we've got to get a director of rugby in first before we start appointing the head coach. I think that is the right way to do it. But I mean, the list of candidates is, like Nick said, it's just very underwhelming. Billy Millard wouldn't be a bad shout, actually. He's probably the best of the bunch on that list, I would say. I'm very surprised Jamie Roberts' name isn't on that list. Because Warren Gatland did sort of allude to the fact that someone in the WRU holds a lot of power, and it was said that behind closed doors he was referring to Jamie Roberts. So I thought Jamie Roberts would be on this list, but he's not. But yeah, it's just very underwhelming. I mean, Kingsley Jones, for goodness sake, come on. With all due respect, we have to do better than this. We really do.
But
Just go back to Jamie Roberts. I do think if he is a candidate and he is on the shortlist, he should have stepped down from his media responsibilities over the last few weeks, because I do think there's a conflict of interest. If he's not, that's fine. He can say what he wants, but I do think there was a conflict of interest if he was a serious candidate.
For me, we need to be clear about what we want from the person in charge. And for me, that's, we need a strong vision. We need a commitment to delivering that vision. We need a vision that lasts, that's got a 12-month detailed plan, a 3-year, outline plan, a 5-year plan. We need somebody that's going to come in and say, for the next 25 years, this is the vision for Welsh rugby. And none of those names that you've mentioned really inspire me that way. Do you know what I mean?
No.
And I'm looking at it and I'm going, are these names, are these people really going to come in and stamp their authority on the game? Are they going to come in and go, right, okay, this is how we do it, boys, and this is how it's going to happen. Get on the train and let's make the train go faster. Or are they going to come in and go, well, I need to do a review for the first 6 months, and after I've done a review for the 6 months, I need another 6 months to kind of work out where we go and how we do it. And then in 12 months' time, we'll sit down and we'll launch the plan. No, we need somebody that comes in and goes, right, okay, while we're getting all that stuff together, here's what we need to do, and that's, they need to have a major impact on the board. Anybody that listened to the crowd on Saturday is going, why is that stadium full of English people? Yeah. And it's full of English people because we price out Welsh people and we don't sell it through the clubs. When we sold it through the clubs, you had to be a member of a club in order to apply for a ticket. And then 2 weeks before the game, any tickets that weren't sold through the clubs then got distributed through the WRU. Now anyone can buy it, so the prices go up, and they use a pricing ladder, so they go up and up and up and up, and that just means that more English people are buying it than Welsh people, because there's 100 tickets at a tenner, and after that, boom, up it goes. So whoever comes in has got to have a real clear understanding of, this is what Wales is, this is what Welsh rugby is, this is how I get the public back on board. This is the vision that I give the public, and this is how I make that vision work. And yeah, none of those names. I'm surprised Guy Easterby is the one that kind of confuses me, because I thought he stepped away from rugby. I may have missed him stepping back in, but I thought he stepped away from rugby and went and did other stuff elsewhere. So, because he's an ex-Scarlet, he obviously used to be Simon Easterby's brother, but I thought he stepped away from the game after he left the Scarlets, but
I'm not sure. But I have come across a brief job description. This is from a recent Wales Online article. So it says the role will carry the responsibility of overseeing and leading all elite and professional rugby in Wales, including collaborating with the head coaches, both the men's and the women's national teams, and the DOR will be tasked with developing a sustainable strategy for the 4 professional clubs. It's a big job. It's a really big job. It's an important job, and we've got to get it right. But unfortunately, the names that's been mentioned so far, if true, of course, I'm very underwhelmed by. I have to be honest.
Well, it leads me back to where I was started, really. I think the only person who has that knowledge and knows the systems at the moment is the interim person, and I will be surprised if he doesn't get it.
I'd be disappointed if he did.
I'm not,
Because
yeah.
This
But
what's
it's,
happening at the
yeah.
minute isn't great, is it?
I guess the only thing I would say to whoever's appointed
Mm.
this post, it ain't going to happen overnight, is it? You know, these, as you said, Lee, they're long-term strategies, medium to long-term strategies. So you're not necessarily going to see the benefit in 6 months, 9 months. You know, you need to give a little bit of time to this one.
Yeah, but they need to hit the ground running. They
Oh,
need
yeah.
to come in, and there are some things that they can do to get the crowd on board, to get supporters on board. But where you're saying with that job description, Jim, that's just the pro game. Yeah. So semi-pro, community, schools, colleges,
Doesn't Geraint John do
all
something
outside
like
of that. Yeah, but I want someone that's going to come in and go, right, this is one vision for everybody. This is this is the jigsaw. Here's your bit of the jigsaw, that's what you do. Here's your bit of the jigsaw, that's what you do. This is what the jigsaw looks like, and these are the bits that we all need to control. You make that piece fit there. You make that piece fit there. And when all of those pieces of the jigsaw come together, we've got a World Cup. There's no point farting around and going, we'd like to come second in the Six Nations in 5 years' time. Yeah. We've got to set that out and go, do you know what? As a country, we are good enough to be at the top level of international rugby. That's where we could be. But we've let ourselves down time and time again, and we need somebody to come in and go, right, here's the vision, let's go and make it happen. And if that's not the vision, then you may as well not waste our time. You may as well withdraw your, if that is not your vision, withdraw your application and go and coach Canada, go and coach Russia. Everyone seems to coach Russia, but that for me is where we have to be.
Probably don't coach Russia the way things are at the moment in the world. So yeah,
maybe
don't go
avoid
to
Russia. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Okay, so that's the short list on there. Then, and any other news, Jim?
Nope, that's it for me.
Okay, so there were actually some bright spots on Friday night. So Nick, talk us through the under-20s, and feel free to take as long as you want on this and use as many superlatives as you possibly can, because this is the good bit of the show. All yours, mate.
No problem at all. I'm unfortunate. I've got to go after this bit. I won't be able to join the rest of the podcast, but I'll finish this bit off first. Okay, well, absolutely fantastic effort on Friday night against the Giants, which were in the England, apart from England. And, you know, it was a heck of a challenge, and we answered it. We answered it. First sort of quarter of the game, it looked ominous. Their forwards were overpowering us, and they scored, a try. And I think they thought it was just going to be they could run over us through the game. But we got back into the game, led exceptionally well by the captain, Harry Beddle again. Also, Harry Thomas, the hooker from the Scarlets, was again superb. Both the tackling machines, and I think you've got a really, really good, very promising player there for the future, who will, I'm surely, if he develops properly, be challenging for a slot in the full team in 4 or 5 years' time. Fantastic first try from Harry, from a kick from outside half, Harry Wild, and finished with a plum, really, again by Stefan Emmanuel. He looks a really classy player, and we could allude to sort of, the amount of players that play outside of Wales, but I think Cardiff deserves some credit for bringing him back, and he looks another very promising player. Among the forwards, shout out particularly to Dion Gwynn and Evan Minto, who carried effectively, and also we had some really physical wingers. in Harry Boshoff, who plays at Bristol, and the Dragons, Harry Rees-Weldon. They played really well, really powerful in attack, but also really powerful in defence. Some fantastic tackling. We know what a threat Tom Bowen is with as a full back when he's got ball in hand, or a winger. Perhaps needs to pass a bit more now and again, but he's certainly got that little X factor. Second try again was a really great try. Fantastic vision from Wild, lovely pass, and a fantastic finish by Harry Rees-Weldon. And in the end, England didn't really know what to do. I think they'd come there with a game plan which is fairly limited, but we just kept on knocking them back. And we fully deserved the victory in the end, 23-13, stopped their Grand Slam, and which they were odds-on favourites to win. So a really successful season in my view. And talking about things that maybe have been going on in the past in the build-up to this, I know certainly with Karen on the Welsh pod, I do feel there's been more of a strategic approach to the under-20 season this year, with some warm-up games and so on, lots of training with other teams and so on. So I think that's helped them tremendously to try and adapt to the physicality that we haven't necessarily got. Still some things to work on. The line out hasn't functioned as well as I think they would have wanted. And hopefully they can work on that, because they'll move on now to the Junior Rugby World Cup in Italy, end of June, July. And hopefully maybe with Nicky Thomas back, Nick Thomas, sorry, from the Dragons, that might help. One or two players coming back. One of the concerns has to be the amount of players who are playing in England, who had opportunities to go to perhaps schools and universities there, which I fully get. But it's important we do, as when I spoke to Richie Pugh, keep in touch with that, and maybe for the future to look how we might address that and make it fewer players going over. Obviously, we've got Tupolotto, sorry, who's Welsh qualified, and Kane James. So it'll be interesting to see what they decide to do in the future. But Richie Whiffin and his coaches really do deserve some credit. Hopefully now those players will get some more game time in Super Rugby Cymru, and hopefully with some of them they might even be able to step up to get some game time for our clubs in the URC. But we have got some talent in Wales. It's about how we develop that talent and give them the opportunities to be the very best players they can be in the next 4 or 5 years.
So I'm just going to chip in on this bit rather than save it for later, because this came up in David Buttress's stuff that we'll probably talk about later in a bit more depth as well, about having players in England, and why do we have players in England. So listeners who've been around for donkey's years will know my son was in Scarlet's Academy, but went to Hartpury. Yeah, so we live an hour, 15 hour, 20 minutes away from Scarlet's. Yeah, and our options were to send him to Pollock Cigar in Beckley. Yeah, which fair enough, they put a bus on, but the bus is an hour and 20 each way every day, and then he's got to stay on after. So then you're like, well, okay, well, how does that? So we're still kind of 3 or 4 hours every day, 4 or 5 days a week up and down the motorway. So okay, that's not going to be great. He had a option to go to Llandovery, but Llandovery wasn't for him. He'd still have to get back and forward to Scarlet and whatever, albeit with more support. And Johan Cunningham was there at the time, but it wasn't the atmosphere in Llandovery College wasn't right for him. So then it's like, right, okay, well, does he go to Pembrokeshire College? And Pembrokeshire College were getting battered 75-80-0 at the time. Are no better now, because all of our decent players went to Pollock Cigar. So you're then in this position of going, right, okay, what does he do? Yeah. Scarlets did offer to put him into a private school in Llethley, But again, it just from an individual point of view, we wouldn't have fitted in there. So we said no. And he said, look, I want to go to Hartpury. Yeah. Why does he go to Hartpury? Because he wakes up in the morning, he gets out of bed, he walks 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes down the road, and there's a choice of gyms. And not only is it a choice of gyms, well equipped, good gyms. Yeah. The types of gyms that you look at and you open the door and you go, oh, I like this. There are expert coaches at every single layer in Hartpury. Yeah. Some of them are now starting to come home and play for Wales and coach Welsh teams. You have superb mental development. We were talking last week about the head side of the game. Yeah, those players are in a winning environment week after week after week after week, and that's the attitude that they deliver and they develop. Yeah. You then have this issue that he's still an hour away from the Scarlets. It's the other way. Yeah, but he's playing top level rugby in the English college system. We don't have that in our college system. Yeah, if you look at the English college games and then you look at Welsh college games, I'm sorry, guys, it is not on the same level. It is nowhere near the same level. It's not physical. The skills are not there. It's just not on the same level. Yeah. So that's why players are going to Hartpury. Yeah. There were 3 boys from Aberystwyth. What's his name? What's the winger from Gloucester, James?
Hathaway.
So he did exactly the same thing. He had a contract with the Scarlets and went, I can't keep doing this. He's gone there. Dayan Gwyn, who's at Gloucester at the minute, is from Aberystwyth. Exactly the same thing. I know this is West Wales, yeah. So we just do not have the facilities that they have there. And if the WRU want to keep our players in Wales, then they need to build facilities, but don't build it in Cardiff, don't build it in Swansea, don't build it in Llanelli, build it in the places where players are already struggling and where players are leaving to go. Yeah. You've got players in the Dragons Academy at the minute, Nick. So, James, so you've got Nick, Naked Nick. Yeah. You've got Evan Minto, Harry Beddle. Those boys were all in college with my son. Yeah. They've all gone through Hartpury, and there's a whole load of others. There's a constant stream of them. The Hartpury first 15 is usually entirely Welsh players. We need to be building the Hartpury facility in Wales, and we need to be building 3, 4, 5 of them, and don't put them in the colleges where they are now. Yeah, don't go to Coleg Cigar and go, we're going to build you a new gym, and because the function within Coleg Cigar isn't set up the way it is in Hartpury. Hartpury is rugby first, then you do education, and your education is absolutely monitored down to the button. So you make sure you get your A levels, you make sure you get your degree, yeah, and then rugby again. But it's a mindset that you do not get in Welsh colleges. And if we're going to be serious about it, and this is why I was saying that that director role needs to include schools, colleges, the community game. It needs to go top to bottom, left to right. It needs to encompass everything, because players are getting left out and then they pop up in the English system and we go, oh, why are they there? You go, they're there because you didn't look after them when they were in the Welsh system. You treated them like shit when they were in the Welsh system and just expected them to roll with it day after day after day because, hey, maybe in 5 years' time you might get a pro contract. It doesn't work like that. You've got English clubs begging Welsh players to go over there, looking after them, giving them top facilities, giving them support left, right, and centre. That's why players are going over there. That's why our majority of our players are in the English system, and we need to keep them here, but we need to give them a reason to stay.
Just to add, Harry Beddle's actually at Leicester Tigers, not the Dragons.
Yeah, sorry, it's Nick at the Dragons,
Nick
but
Thomas,
Harry Beddle, yeah, they were all in the same team. Nick,
right,
Harry,
okay.
yeah, Nick, Harry. There's a couple of others as well. Evan Minto was there. There's a couple of other names that are bandying around Welsh Rugby at the minute. They were all in the same team at Hartbury, and now aren't. So anyway, that was and people can say, well, that was my personal, experience of my son going through that system, and now my son left that system. My son had enough of that system and just went, I can't do this anymore. And when a 19-year-old player, yeah, who used to run rings around players who are now pro players for fun, yeah, he used to literally he'd tell me before the game, I'm going to put two runs at him. I'm going to go round his left once, and I'm going to round his round his right once, and then I'm going to chip and chase over him just for fun. And the players we're talking about, the players he was beating, are now pro players. That's the quality of players that we're losing from the Welsh game because we didn't look after them in their formative years. And my son is not the only one. There's a raft of them that go away and don't come back because of the way they get treated in Welsh Rugby. So, and relax, breathe. It's sometimes you just need to get stuff off your chest. Right. Yeah. Should we talk about the Western?
Speaking about getting things off our chest. Oh dear me. Do we have to
Would
talk
anybody
about
else? Yeah. Let's do some therapy. So Jamie, your therapy. Go on, have a couple of minutes of Wales England therapy.
I'm still in shock. Seriously in shock about what happened on Saturday. I've seen some people claim on social media that they saw this result coming. I don't believe them because there was a lot of optimism going into this game from the Welsh Rugby public and from the media. But England scoring 10 tries and putting 68 points on us at home, nobody saw that coming. No, nobody can say that they saw that coming. It's Wales's heaviest ever defeat in Cardiff, biggest home or away Six Nations lost, and the most points conceded against England. And for me personally, as someone who was born in the 80s, but grew up in the 90s watching Welsh Rugby, it really did feel to me like I was watching Wales in the 1990s. It was bad. We were second best in all areas of the game. We were out-muscled, out-fought, outplayed. Got to give a lot of credit to England. They came down here and did a demolition job on us, didn't they? The Curry twins were outstanding. Totally dominated the contact area. Ellis Genge was fantastic. Wales got blown away physically. We had no answer whatsoever to England's power game. We couldn't get over the gain line, and that's one of the biggest reasons why we struggled so much on Saturday. Our pack was destroyed. Our halfbacks were woeful. Our kicking game was poor. And we couldn't get over the gain line because we just don't have enough ball carriers. It was simple as that. But it was a very sorry performance. It was embarrassing. It was humiliating. I think players such as Jack Morgan, Blair Murray, who's now being talked about as a Lions bolter. I mean, who would have thought that comes the start of the season? Elliot D, Ben Thomas, they can hold their heads high. They've had a good campaign. I think now there are question marks over guys like Will Rowlands and Gareth Anscombe. Maybe it's time we need to move on from him, especially Will Rowlands. He's a shadow of the player that he was 3 years ago. Gareth Anscombe, I'm afraid, I think his international days might be behind him. The position of defence coach Mike Forshaw, that's going to come under scrutiny. Wales conceded 25 tries and 195 points in 5 matches. That's not acceptable. What else is there to say? I just think it was a very dark day for Welsh Rugby, but where on earth do Wales go from here? 17 defeats in a row. That's the most now for a Tier 1 nation in the professional era. We're the first Wales team to win successive wooden spoons. You look at what's happening at the WRU. We've got no director of rugby. We've got no permanent head coach. We're still waiting on a strategy. This one nation or one Wales strategy. What's happened to that? That seems to have disappeared. And we're still waiting for this new PRA agreement to be signed off, which has been dragging on since last summer, let's not forget. I don't know what else to say. I honestly have no idea where Welsh Rugby goes from here. But that on Saturday was, for me personally, was just heartbreaking and demoralising. Don't get me wrong, I didn't really expect Wales to win. I know I predicted Wales to win by 3 points. I was trying to be optimistic, but I did not see that coming. 10 tries like that. Yeah. Very, very dark times for Welsh Rugby, I'm afraid. Nothing more to say on it.
Nick, your free therapy begins now. Get it all off your chest,
Well,
mate.
not an awful lot to add. It was the most depressing game I've watched in the Six Nations for a long, long time. And I've watched them since the 80s. Absolutely abysmal. I think we did talk, didn't we? If you're going to lose, and I did think we'd lose, but not nowhere near by that much. I think we would have perhaps if we'd have picked some of the younger players. We did question the selection of Rowlands, Anscombe, Griffjohn, and I think we were proven right there. Teddy Williams should have started. Elliot D is a good player, but Dewi Lake should have started as well. They wouldn't have made much difference. Uh, Ellis May looked to me like a rabbit in headlights. He has done for the last two games. He's a promising player, but at the moment he needs to have a run of regional games. You might a bit like Tom Rogers, you can see how he's improved. We've been unlucky with injuries as well at wide. I do get that. Defence was poor. I'm not convinced by our centre partnership. I know the game was lost elsewhere. I fully supported the pairing we've had. They've had 6 games together now. I'm not sure that Ben Thomas, good player though he is physical enough for international 12 position. I personally like somebody who can truck it up a little bit as well. I know he's a very skillful player, has got good vision, but I think you need a little bit more on that, unless we play a very different way. But I don't know. There's an awful lot of work to be done, and I do feel sorry for the few sort of international players we have got. Jack wasn't at his best on Saturday, but that's because we were blown away up front. David Jenkins had a reasonable game as well, but we've got to try to find any positives in that. When you concede 10 tries at home against England, there's nothing much you can take out of that game other than, well, I suppose it shows where we are, that we can't paper over any cracks at all. And I think we got a little bit over the top after that reasonable performance against Ireland. I think we were just so relieved that we were better. The signs were there in the first half in Scotland as well. I don't know. It's a big job, whoever comes in as coach, and it's not going to be done over the next couple of years. Hopefully we can start to win a few games, but to really get back to where we would like us to be, we need other teams to get worse. And for me, now that they've seemed to have got their act together, the big four in World Rugby will be for the foreseeable England, France from the Northern Hemisphere, and South Africa and New Zealand. So then we've got to be, I think, perhaps pushing hard for the middle ground with Ireland, Scotland, Italy, Argentina. That's our ceiling at the moment, and we've got to be realistic about that. I fully understand ambition, but you've also have to have an element of realism, because somebody's got to get worse for us to get and us get better at the same time. But yeah, highly, highly depressing.
Yeah, I get what you're saying on being realistic, Nick. But for me, it is somebody needs to come in and have that ambition. Come in with a. I think when Gatlin came back, the desire to do anything wasn't there. When he came in, he wanted to make a name for himself. He wanted to grow a team. And he got lucky that first season. He benefited from a lot of the work that had been put in beforehand. He polished a few things and made a really good team out of a good team. That's what he did, and it all came right for him that first season, and that gave him a bit of time and a bit of breathing space. And that could, I think, probably the worst thing that could happen is that a coach comes in now and that happens again. We go from worst to best, and we go, hey, everything's great, everything's fantastic, and I think what we're really good at is shooting ourselves in the foot time and time again. Saturday for me, by the end of that game, well, what I thought was coming close to the end of the game, and I was nearly in tears, and we still had 20 minutes to go. I looked up at the clock, and there was still 20 minutes to go, and I was nearly in tears. My wife turned to me, I was on the sofa, and she said, "Are you okay? I had a bad back last week." And she said, "Is your back playing up? Is your back in that much pain?" And I'm like, no, let's just look at the score. And then we had 20 minutes to go. And, you know, there's nothing worse than losing to the English. Nothing worse. You could see the arrogance. You could see all the worst things that you get from English supporters and English players. You could see that getting bigger and bigger with every try. So, you know,
They didn't
we
respect us, but you can't blame them, can you? How can you respect somebody who
well,
plays like that?
yeah, I think some of the stuff that have been said and have been doing and all that kind of stuff have been a bit beyond. You know, there were times in the 80s and 90s where England were dog shit, you know, but nobody said, let's disband England. What's the point of the English Premiership back then? You know, that wasn't being said in those days. So, yeah, I mean, for me, the key bit now is that we're in a position where this is as low as it's going to be. And I think Matt Sherratt said after the game that there were a lot of players that needed an arm around them and support. You know, and I think that's true. I agree with you, James. There are certain players there that I think were probably, you know, Matt Sherratt brought in because he knew how they play, and they're probably not the best player in that position, but they'd work for a while, and that got found out. But I also think there are a lot of players there that are going to be Welsh players for a long time, and this is a game. Sometimes you have a game that you put in your back pocket when you're walking off the pitch. You go, right, okay, you put that feeling in your back pocket, and in 2 or 3 years' time, when you're playing England and it's 75 minutes and the scores are 10-all and you're on their line, you bring that card back out and you remember this game and you remember that feeling and you go, right, okay, I'm gonna dig deep and I'm gonna find something extra because of what happened last Saturday. If we can do that, then I think we've got a way forward. But the first bit has got to be to look after those players that were on the pitch on Saturday, because you know it's hard enough taking a loss like that when you're playing Division 7 and you're playing against a bus driver who hasn't got a pair of boots, you know. But when you're playing international rugby and you're getting tanked like that in front of the world media, you know, those boys won't be looking at Facebook for a good couple of weeks. Then you want to just run and hide and sit in a cave and never see a rugby ball ever again. And I can't blame them.
It's
But
tough, isn't it? It
yeah,
really is tough. And I did feel for Matt Sherratt after the game, actually, in his post-match interview. He's copped a lot of stick. I think he's done the best job that he could with the players he had. He was thrown into it, let's be honest. He looked generally dejected after the game. He looked like he was going to cry at one point. It probably is hurting him, it's hurting the players. I feel sorry for guys like Jack Morgan, who have been outstanding all tournament. You know, in a losing cause, he's been brilliant. But here's another point, though. Can you imagine, right, paying money to go and see that on Saturday? So I was in the car today. I was listening to Radio Wales. There was a guy on there. He said he paid up to 400 quid for tickets for his family. That's just tickets, mate, not for the day. And he said he went there and he said it was the worst atmosphere he experienced, full of English, Swing Low Sweet Chariot belted out. Can you imagine paying all that money to go and see that record defeat to England? Anyone who's listening to this pod, if you paid money to go and watch it, you have my sympathies, because I was struggling just watching it on the couch at home. To actually go to Cardiff in that atmosphere, full of English, getting absolutely pumped by England the way we did, that would be my worst nightmare. So anyone who paid good money for that, you have my sincere condolences. It was awful.
Yeah, it was. It was. Okay, let's move on a little bit, because you know it's not just us talking about this game and Welsh rugby. I'm just going to prep this one up, okay? That some of the work that we do, like we're spread all four corners of Wales, literally all four corners of Wales, yeah. But so we don't necessarily get to go to every game. I think, Jamie, you probably get to go to most games. Nick, you try and get to as many games. I'm starting to get back to games, and Harley goes and sees the odd one and every now and again when we can. Yeah, but we make the effort to watch them all on telly. We watch all of the ones in the URC. We kind of get a feel for what's going on. We look at a lot of social media. We get a lot of, you get a feeling for where the bulk of support is on that. And then you get an ex-Wales captain paid by English media, watching English games, on the board of a Welsh region, on the board of a Welsh region, suggesting that, and he's clever because he doesn't say, I want this side to go. What he says is, we need 3 sides in Wales. Okay, now this argument has been done and dusted, knocked at the park several times, but he's getting paid by people that want 3 sides in Wales, and then they'll want 2 sides in Wales, and then they want an Anglo-Welsh league. Okay, that a Welsh side is never going to win, right? So when he stands there and says, I want a region to go, we all know that Warburton is talking about the Dragons. Yeah. If he stood there and he went, okay, one side's going to go, and if that's Cardiff, then that's fine. Okay. But he ain't saying that. He's coming nowhere near that. And it infuriates me every time because we don't go behind it. We don't go, who's paying him? He had a chance to make a difference in Welsh rugby. He was part of Pivac's setup. He left Pivac's setup to chase the money with TNT, watching English rugby, commentating on English rugby every week. He's not watching Welsh rugby. He's watching English rugby because that's what he's paid to do. But he's on the board of Cardiff. And that's my calm version. Jamie, your thoughts on Sam Warburton? Forget the fact about captaining Wales 10 years ago and getting to semi-finals and being a great player, because that's gone. In the here and now, a Cardiff board member is suggesting that we go down to three regions. I'm going to shut up now. I'm going to mute myself. That's what I'm going to do, Jim. I'm going to mute myself. Go on, all yours.
Well, look, firstly, I know you say all that, but I do have a lot of respect for Sam Warburton. And he is entitled to his opinions. That is what he is paid to do. And he's put his neck out there, and he has said the Dragons on a podcast that he did with the BBC. So he has called for us to be cut. The problem I have with Sam Warburton is the position that he holds. So as you've mentioned, he is a Cardiff Rugby board member. So he's speaking from a position of self-interest. And this is a time when Welsh Rugby needs unity more than ever before. I don't think it's right that a current board member of a region is advocating for another region to be cut. That's wrong. It's simply wrong. It's unprofessional and it smacks of self-interest. And then the same goes as well for Ron Jones at the Scarlets, another board member who advocated for a team to be cut. And here's the thing, I don't think Sam would be so candid with his views if Cardiff were the ones at risk of being cut. If Cardiff were in danger, I don't think he'd be coming out and saying this. And also the other thing he said, which really annoyed me, he said, and this is from the podcast he did, where he was a lot more critical, particularly of the Dragons, and a lot more open with his views. He said, he's got 20 years of evidence the 4 regions don't work. That's what he said. He's got 20 years of evidence the 4 regions don't work. So when Wales were winning Grand Slams, when we were winning Six Nations Championships, when we was reaching World Cup semi-finals, I didn't hear Sam or anybody else in the rugby media saying 4 regions doesn't work. We didn't talk about it then because Wales were winning. It wasn't an issue. And Dragons have provided players to Wales. It may not be as many as the others, but they have. We have done our bit. And look, I don't think cutting a region is a silver bullet to the deep-rooted systemic issues that we have in Welsh Rugby. I've spoken about it before. If people think that everything in Welsh Rugby is just going to be rosy by simply cutting the Dragons, then they are very naive. All you're going to do is alienate a set of supporters. This happened with the Celtic Warriors back in 2004. We all know how that ended. And hypothetically, if the Dragons were going to be cut, do you think Dragons fans are going to go and support Cardiff down the road or any other regions? They won't. They won't do it. I won't do it. What they'll do, well, 2 things. They'll either walk away from Welsh Rugby completely, or they'll just go over the bridge and they'll watch Bristol-Gloucester. You know, I can get to Bristol-Gloucester less than half hour from here. Very easy. There's no way I'm going to be going supporting Cardiff and buying a season ticket. or Scarlets or Ospreys for that matter. And then you got things like, there would be fewer opportunities for young Welsh players to make it professional level. If you cut it to 3, you are narrowing the player pool and limiting those opportunities. From a financial point of view, there'd be less money from broadcasters because the WRU have an agreement with the URC. Let's not forget to provide 4 teams. There'd be less gate money. There would be fewer Welsh derbies. And we all know the Welsh derbies, they're the matches that hold the most interest for supporters. And another reason as well, I think people forget this, there is a human element to this talk as well. So when you got people casually talking about cutting a team, as Warburton has and many other people have on social media, can we just take a second to remember these are people's livelihoods that we're talking about here? You're talking about people losing their jobs. You're talking about staff at the club, those who work in the shop, in the ticket office, in the hospitality, the kitchen staff, etc., the bar staff. They have bills and mortgages to pay like the rest of us. So, maybe have a little bit more understanding and empathy when you talk about cutting a region, because people's livelihoods are at stake. They've got mortgages and bills to pay. I think people need to remember that, But look, if the union were to cut a team, right, this is my point. What is the actual mechanism for that, right? Given that now these regions are independent businesses, what would probably happen is it's highly likely that WRU would have to go to court. That's the only reason, the way they could probably shut down the team. That is going to be very messy and very costly. And this is something that David Wright spoke about at the Dragons Q&A. And the financial cost of closing a team, trust me, that would be passed onto the other 3 teams. It really would. They would be feeling the burden of it. It would be messy. It would be prolonged. It would be very, very damaging financially. And people say there's not enough money for 4 teams in Wales. The WRU are a multi-million-pound business. It is their job to invest in the game and raise the revenue so we have competitive pro teams and we have the money to invest from grassroots upwards. But instead, the WRU investing money on roof walks, hotels and consultants. Why are we wasting so much money on consultants? Why can't the WRU make a decision for themselves? The amount of money and waste that the WRU needs to be called out, but instead it's far easier for people to say, oh, let's just cut the Dragons. Yeah, that'll solve all the issues. Yeah. Cutting Dragons is not a silver bullet solution. It's not going to make Welsh Rugby suddenly better. And all you're going to do is alienate a lot of people. And trust me, this is not the way to go. We have 4 teams now. We need to get this PRA agreement signed and sealed so we can quiet it down. It's never going to go away, this debate, but we need to quiet down now the naysayers, get this agreement done. The WRU have publicly said we are committed to 4 teams. So let's just get on with it. But I'm sorry, I find it really unhelpful and unprofessional for people like Sam Warburton, a Cardiff Rugby board member, and Ron Jones from the Scots, another board member, to be advocating for other teams to be cut. It's not right. They're entitled to their opinions, but in the positions they hold, it's not helpful in the current climate and it's not right. Sorry, that's my rant over now.
Yeah, I tell you what, this is good therapy tonight, boys. This is good therapy. Nick, now in your position, you will have used a lot of external experts and consultants and things like that within education and things like that. Any reason for the WRU to be using external consultants where just people that know what they're talking about could be doing the same thing?
The answer to that is no, we didn't. We obviously sounded out people and got a sort of evaluation of where things were at. And then we put together jointly a plan to move things forward. Sometimes we had on one occasion brought somebody in from another area of Wales just to have a look at something, see how they did it there and compared to how we did it where I was. But that was, basically, one person on one occasion, and it was helpful. But it only told us what we already knew, really, perhaps. But so I would think we've had all these reviews. They've left a set of proposals, things that need to be done, but in most cases they haven't been actioned for whatever reason. So can't tell me that speaking to the people in the know across Wales, they found anything different than by bringing in external consultants. One of the things I just wanted to add to the point you made about players going over to England to play, One of the things does concern me there with the larger squads is how much game time they get once they're out of the college system, out of the under-20 system. There's a lad who played for 9 for the under-20s last year from Swansea, Ian Davis. He's at Bath. I think obviously he's at university. I think he's playing university rugby for Bath, but he's about fourth choice, Scamath. Now, if he was to come back to a Welsh club, and maybe hopefully that's the plan, the type of lad we should be getting back. For instance, the Scarlets are a little bit short in my view at 9. He would be a lad who should be getting far more games, and then you'd see if he's good enough. I'm not saying he is. I'm just using him as an example. And as Jamie said, I have no problem with people expressing an opinion. But if you're on a board of an organisation, you express that opinion, and you don't get enough people to come over to your point of view, and there's a vote, you should have the integrity to say, well, I'm sorry, I can't accept that, therefore I'm resigning. So if Sam Warburton feels so strongly, but the Cardiff board signed the PRA, he should resign, and then he can say what he wants. But there is again a conflict of interest when he's saying these things in the public domain, and given his background, people are going to listen to him. I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of the guy. Ron Jones, from the Scarlets. Similarly, fine, that's your opinion, perfectly entitled to it. But if the rest of the board don't agree with you and they vote for this and it's accepted, time for you to step down or shut up.
The Dragons are an easy target at the moment because of results. And this is a problem. This is something that I have spoken about on the Dragons Lair pod. And when I had Nick Webb on my pod, BBC commentator, he said, look, we need 4 teams. But he did say the Dragons don't help themselves with their performances. And they are right. We have got to start doing better on the pitch. I recognise that. A lot of people at the Dragons recognise that. Because here's the frustrating thing. The Dragons are in a really good place off the field. They are the only Welsh region to outright own their own ground. None of the others do. We are debt-free pretty much. I don't think any of the others are. It's working really well off the field. There's a lot of potential. There's a lot of revenue streams going on at Rodney Parade. Newport County are playing here, so that's a really additional key additional source of revenue for them. They're hosting more events. They got the Bucks final there. They got women's rugby. They got age grade football. They can utilise and sweat the asset off Rodney Parade, and they'll be in a very good financial position. So if we ever did go to like a tender process, say the WRU did say, okay, we are going to close the team, but we're going to go to a tender process, right? The Dragons would score very highly because I think they're in a very sustainable position, which perhaps the other regions aren't. But what really lets the Dragons down is their performances. That's what people are looking at. We're bottom in the league at the moment. That doesn't help. When you're losing week in, week out, all you're doing is feeding the trolls and giving the naysayers momentum to close you down. So this is where the Dragons need to use that now as motivation. Because I've spoken about before, they have got to be better on the field. Because when you lose week in, week out, you're not proving anybody wrong. You're just proving everybody right. So it's got to be better next season. It's been a tough season. Mistakes have been made. We've got a young team. We are crippled with injuries. The recruitment was terrible. We know that. There's a lot of finger pointing going on. But we've got to see progress from the Dragons because all the ingredients are there. We're very sustainable off the field, but we've got to start being better on the field. And I would say that as a caveat, but no, I disagree with Sam and anybody else who wants to cut to 3. I don't see how cutting the Dragons makes everything better in Welsh Rugby, how it makes Team Wales better or anyone else better for that matter. I just don't see it. There is no concrete evidence to suggest that going down to 3 will work. Because what will happen is, if that happened and 3 teams were struggling, you know what's going to happen? We need to lose a team. We need to go down to 2 teams. We need to be like Scotland. Yeah, let's be like Scotland, who haven't won a Grand Slam, who haven't won a Six Nations Championship. In the Six Nations either, they haven't done it. Italy haven't done it. Yeah, they got good pro teams, but they've done nothing. Scotland are massively underachieved on the international stage. And this is their golden generation. Do we really want to be like Scotland? I don't think we do. So, yeah, I've had my say on it now. I'm getting sick and tired of it. I just want this new PRA agreement done and dusted because it will quiet them down, some of the critics and naysayers. But unfortunately, I don't think this conversation is ever going to go away until eventually a team goes. And that's really frustrating.
Well, yeah, I've bleated on before about that it's a bigger argument than rugby. You know, our media in Wales is controlled and run by people in England. It's called Wales Online. It's owned by an English company. It's run by people in England, staffed by people in Wales. You know, and that's consistent across a lot of what we do. So if people like Warburton and others, you know, Ron Jones could have said that to a mate down the pub. He didn't. He said it to a reporter with Wales Online, and that's why it's important. Yeah, he's like I say, he can have those views. He can say it at the Scholars board meeting. Warburton can say that at the Cardiff board meeting, and say that, you know, these are my thoughts. But they're not. They're saying it to the media, and they're trying to influence people who pay to go and watch games. That's what they're doing. And
he said it to the BBC, Lee. He said on BBC TV, which has a big audience. He said it on the BBC podcast. He actually put the boot into the Dragons more on the podcast. What you saw on Rugby Special, that was more restrained. He actually name checks us and tells us we're the ones that should be close. And he does this all, I have friends at the Dragons. It's not personal. Well, some friend you are wanting to lose their jobs, mate. Some friend you are.
If that's your friend, imagine what your enemies are like.
Exactly.
Yeah. But to me, absolutely right. As far as I'm concerned, you know, Warburton, lovely little player, did a cracking job on the pitch. Off the pitch, no. So some of his analysis about the play on the pitch, yes,
very good pundit, excellent pundit.
Absolutely. But when he starts talking about stuff off the pitch, no, that's not what it is. And if he thinks he is, then shut up and go and run a region. Actually do your job on the board and go and run a region on the board. No, go and apply for Wales Director of Rugby. Don't go mouthing off on TNT and all these other places trying to get people to undermine support in Welsh Rugby, because that's not what we need right now. We need a massive weekend where we fill all of our home. We've got all four sides at home this weekend. It would be great to see all four stadium full-ish with yourself, Nick. Let's go for one tier at the Ospreys. But you know what I mean? It would be good to see 10,000 in every ground this Saturday and Friday and Saturday supporting Welsh sides and going, do you know what? We know this is hard at the minute, boys, but we're here. And we're here
unity
as one.
We need unity, leader. That's something that we don't have it. We need alignment and unity in Welsh Rugby. We haven't got it. What we don't need is board members coming out and advocating to cut the region, because that is going completely against what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
What we also need is public players like that who are in his position coming out. Look, we've signed the PRA. It's 4 years of 4 regions. Let's get behind it. That's what we need to challenge him as well.
Yeah, Kieran Hardy. Shout out to Kieran Hardy today. He did tell the BBC that going down to 3 teams, excellent. I've always liked Kieran Hardy, fantastic scrum half, but he's right. It's nice for people to come out and say that, because it's all far too easy to just come out and go, close the Dragons, close Ospreys, whatever. Let's go down to 3. Let's have East and West and all this bollocks.
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't suit the narrative of the newspaper owners, of these outlet owners.
Doesn't get clicked, does it?
It doesn't suit them. So we're Kieran Hardy saying, you saw all the fuss with Warburton. I said, listen to various news channels, and he was like, nobody said about Kieran Hardy. Nobody said, Sam Warburton said this. But to balance that, Kieran Hardy said this. No, they said, Sam Warburton said, if that was politics, they would have to beat their backside until they found somebody that disagrees with a person that makes sense. Yeah. So, we need to take all of this stuff with a pinch of salt and listen to independent fan-led podcasts more often. That's what we need to do. Right.
But not the BBC.
Not the BBC. This is a proper one with proper stuff. Let's move on to this week's games then. So we start on Friday night, where I say all 4 sides are at home this weekend, which is nice. So Friday night, Cardiff host the Lions. The game is on the BBC, but ignore the BBC. Go and watch the game. This is the same for everything now, but go and watch the game. So, Lions started the season on fire and then quickly burned out and are sinking like a heavy stone in a still sea at the minute. So, Cardiff have got to fancy this one, haven't they? With where they are. Nick, what's your thoughts on Cardiff Lions?
I think it'll be a really entertaining game on the Cardiff Arms Park pitch. Both teams will try and throw the ball around. I think it'll be in one of those games. It could be a 6-4 tries, but I'm not quite sure to who. You would hope that Cardiff will get over the line, and it's a massive game for them. Obviously, if Harley was here, I'm sure he'd agree. They have. I don't think they've won in 2025 yet, have they? I think they drew with the Ospreys on New Year's Day, and I don't think they've won after that. So that we're into towards the end of March now. So for their season, it's a very, very big game.
I think Cardiff are still in sixth, and I'm looking at the table now, and Lions are where are Lions? Lions are in eighth. So, they're not that far apart.
Tight in the middle, isn't it?
Yeah, in the middle it's tight everywhere from really third and fourth. Well, fourth down to 15th is within touching distance. So, on paper, they're quite close, but Cardiff have had the better form recently, and the Lions have kind of stuttered a fair bit. Jane, your thoughts?
I agree with Nick. I think this could be rugby chaos because these are both teams who are really good with ball in hand, like to chuck the ball about. The Lions are a good team, and they do actually travel well, in fairness. I mean, we'll talk about predictions later, but I think it's going to be a really close game. I can see a lot of tries, but I think the actual scoreline is going to be pretty tight. Are we going to get any Welsh boys back? Any of the regions, do you think? Because that could make a difference. I don't know if we will or not.
Are they shell-shocked, the ones who played a few games?
But I think we usually get back the ones who aren't involved in match day 23s, don't we? Same as if it was an off week. So I think there'll be a few back from other regions, not necessarily for Cardiff, because most of their players were involved, weren't they?
Yeah, and it is a big game for Cardiff because their running now is getting tough. A lot of people were saying that the first half of the season they had an easier running, and to be fair, they did have to play the Dragons twice, still get 9-10 points from that because, as we know, Dragons have this mental block against Cardiff and they can never beat them. But they got to start winning now because otherwise, if they don't, they're going to start slipping down the table. So it was a really big game for them on Friday night. But I think it'll be entertaining. I'll be looking forward to watching it.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Okay, let's move on to Saturday afternoon. Now, so the Friday night game is on BBC. The Saturday afternoon 3 o'clock kickoff is on S4C, and that's quite unusual. They tend not, well, they haven't started doing it recently, but tends not to be the normal thing. Yeah, Scarlet Stormers. What a game to come back into. I think we'll get a lot of decent players back. Like I said, Eddie James. I think Eddie James is probably. I think probably the back three we won't see for this game, which will be a shame. But yeah, we're actually Stormers are in 12th in the table, but they're the Stormers. Do you know what I mean? They're not a side you take lightly. They're in between Benetton and the Ospreys. They're 2 places below the Scarlets. So this is going to be a tight game. And the last 2 games, Scarlets have really let themselves down, like proper. Like we should have taken 2 wins out of those last 2 games, and we didn't come close to taking them. And this is the period of the year where we need to start going upwards, and this is the big one. I know that there's quite a few people go into this, so again, don't worry about it being on S4C. Go and watch it at the park. Go and have a sausage and a pie and a pint, and go and watch the game at the park. I'd love to say I'm going, but I'll be in Birmingham all weekend, so I hope you find a way watching it on telly. So yeah, I just hope that if we get parity up front, I think we'll be fine. It's whether or not the players who've underperformed so far, Lousy, Fafita, Alex Craig, those kind of players, they need to step up now, and they need to put the helmet on. Follow me, boys. This is how we're going, and let's play some decent rugby. And if we do that, I think we'll be fine. But if we don't, and we let them get any kind of foothold in that game, we're in for a rough ride on that. So, would anybody else like to chip in on how amazing the Scarlets are?
Absolutely not. I think it's time to move on, isn't it?
Okay, let's move on to Dragons Ulster, Jamie. I think this is one that could be interesting.
Yeah, so this is the last home game of the season at Rodney Parade. And given what we've just talked about, Warburton's comments and the discourse around cutting the team, I'd really like to see Dragons make a statement and put in a competitive performance. And I do think this is actually a winnable game. Ulster are vulnerable. They're having a poor season. They're in transition. They've got lots of injuries, lots of youngsters, a bit like the Dragons. They were lucky against the Scarlets a couple of weeks ago. I said to you, Lee, I think that was a missed opportunity by the Scarlets. They were there for the taking. We record this on a Monday, so I've got no idea what the team news is looking like, but I am hoping the Dragons injury list has gone down a little bit. I keep saying it, but it's true. We have been hammered by injuries this season. We've had no luck whatsoever. We've even seen it in the under-20s now. Nick Thomas going off, Harry Rees-Weldon going off. I don't know what on earth is going on. We've upset the injury gods, but we are hammered by injuries. But I do think if we play for the full 80 minutes, we get the fundamentals right, improve our ruck speed because it was far too slow against Zebra, and make sure we don't concede any daft penalties or give Ulster any easy ins, then I think we have a chance. But it would be nice if the Dragons could give the home supporters something to cheer about, because there's no getting away from it. It has been a very, very tough season. We all know Dragons are going to finish last. We are where we are. We're a young squad, hammered by injuries. We haven't got the experience that the other teams have got. We haven't got the quality the other teams have got. But we've got to start putting in competitive performances now, even more so after what we've talked about. And I would really like to see Dragons throw the kitchen sink at this one, because I do think it is a winnable game. And maybe Judgment Day, although I'm not confident about that at all. But I think those are the games where Dragons can really go for it. I will be there at Ronnie Parade on Saturday night, but yeah, I'm just hoping that we can respond. I'm hoping the players and the coaches have, taken in what's happened and seen Warburton's comments and go, right, come on now, boys, let's put in a competitive performance here, because I do think Ulster are there for the taking. But we'll see. We'll see.
I'd have it blown up into 3 foot high posters, 3 foot high letters, and pasted around the changing rooms as you walk out and going, this is why you're walking on the pitch today, to stop that from happening. So go make it happen. And again, so 5:15 on Saturday, not on terrestrial television. It will be on Premier Sports for the rest of us. But if you're anywhere near Newport, in fact, if you're anywhere in the east of the country, if you're anywhere east of Bridgend, let's say, then go and watch the Dragons, because Cardiff played on Friday night, so you've got nothing to do on Saturday. Just go and fill the ground. And anybody west of Bridgend, well, you've got a choice of Scarlets and Ospreys. So everybody go and watch a game. I feel really guilty because I know I'm not going to be going to watch a game. I tell everybody to go watch a game, and I know it's the one weekend where I'm away this weekend. So let's discuss Ospreys and Connaught and Nick. What are you hoping for, and where do you see this one going, mate?
Well, first of all, I'm just glad I'm going to the game. I do. After that, Lee, I'd feel awful if I wasn't going to the game. I am coming down.
Guilt shamed you now to go with, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I was already planning to go down. Yeah, looking forward to the game. It's a key game for us. If we've got any real ambitions of getting in the top 8, I think we talked about in the Osprey, we've got to win 4 minimum, probably 5 games, maybe a couple of the bonus points. And of course, like the rest of us, we've all got to go to South Africa for the last 2 games. So it's a must-win game. I think we will do it. I think it'll be quite close. I would expect to have Dan Edwards and Dewi Lake available. Obviously, Dewi's been injured, but I would have thought he'd want to at least be on the bench, if not starting. Obviously, we've got Sam Parry as well. We're lucky because we're not very good. We don't have many players in the Welsh team, so haven't got many 2 players shell-shocked. So I think we should be able to get us over the line. It'll be interesting to see who Ireland will have released to them. I wouldn't have thought Aki Hansen and Beelan will be part of it, but you never know. But they're always a decent team, Connor. I would expect we see Naya Clevu to at least be on the bench on Saturday. So hopefully that'll be something for people to come along to have a look at. And yeah, looking forward to a good game. But if we have, as I say, if we've got any ambitions for top 8, we've got to win on Saturday. If even without a bonus point, I'd settle for a win.
And same thing applies to you as everyone else. If you're in Swansea, I was in Swansea today. There were thousands of people there. They're bloody all over the place. Take some time on Saturday, get yourself down to the ground and pay a couple of quid and just stand on the terrace or in a seat and shout, because hand on heart, this is what needs to be done. So isn't this the game where Lance Bradley's going to do a bit of a presentation to supporters beforehand, Nick? Is that right?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons for coming down. I'm going to go to that beforehand. I think that's in the Morva Lounge in the West Stand. So interesting to see what I'll report back on that, obviously, on the Erie on next weekend. I'll mention it briefly here. It's got further news on the ground. I don't think we'll get great crowds. We don't. Let's be honest, we don't. And I don't think they'll improve until next season, until we're at the new stadium. Well, at St Helens, not new stadium. But the performances on the field deserve more people watching than actually turn up.
Okay, so we're at the squeaky bum time. So Harley will be. I've got an issue with Harley's spreadsheet where it's way too complicated for me, and I can't be asked to sit down with Harley and go, "Can you explain it to me?" So he just puts the figures in, and then a number comes out the end, and then I trust it. So Harley always fills his in first. So I'm trusting Harley that he's made his predictions. Now, if Harley comes back next week and he's got all 4 games absolutely bang on, I think we smell a rat.
Smell a rat.
But, yeah, but I think he's got more sense than that. So, okay, Jamie, let's go down your 4 predictions to start with then. So Cardiff Lions.
I've gone for Cardiff by 5. I think they'll have just enough to beat the Lions, but they've got to have parity with them up front, because as good as the Lions are with ball in hand, they've got a big pack, and Cardiff need to deal with that. But I've got Cardiff by 5.
Okay, Cardiff by 5. Scarlet Stormers.
I've gone Scarlets by 8, because Scarlets do have a very good record against South African teams at Parker Scarlets. Stormers, they are flattering to deceive, aren't they, this season? Don't know what's going on there, so I think Scarlets could win, and I've gone for them by 8.
Okay, Dragons Ulster.
I've gone Ulster by 7. Dragons to get losing bonus point.
Jamie.
But the thing is, but this is the problem. I haven't seen any team news yet, so I need to know who's coming back from injury. If we got a lot of boys back from injury, then maybe we could edge it. But look, Ulster going to come down here. They're going to be expecting to get a bonus point win, because I do think they have an outside shot, haven't they, of making the top 8. So it's a big game for them. But yeah, I've gone for Ulster by 7. Hope I'm wrong, of course, but I'm just going for the form guide, I guess. Okay. Ospreys, Connacht. Yeah, I've gone Ospreys by 10. I think it'll be a comfortable win for them, because they've got a very strong squad. They're playing good rugby, and yeah, I think they'll win with ease. So I think Ospreys by 10.
Cool. Okie dokie. Nick, let's go with you then. Cardiff Lions.
I think it'll be close, but I think Cardiff will just edge it. Cardiff by 3.
Cardiff by 3. Scarlet Stormers.
Stormers, I think I read, have got a couple of players back. They're a very, very inconsistent team. If they play well, I think you could be in trouble. But the fact that it's at home, I'll go Scarlets by 5.
Okay, Dragons Ulster.
I'm sorry, I think go Ulster by 5.
Ooh. And Ospreys Connaught.
Ospreys by 6.
Ospreys by 6. Okay. So I'll run down mine then. I've gone Cardiff Lions. I've gone Cardiff by 6, but I think it'll be a high-scoring game. Scarlet Stormers. I've gone Scarlets by 1. Thank you very much. Dragons Ulster. I think Dragons are due one, Jane. it's.
Oh, it's a kiss of death, Jamie.
He's
feel
fucked it now, haven't he? Cheers, Lee. Cheers for that.
I
Oh,
got
dear.
Dragons by 1. Ospreys.
For Christ's sake, he had to do Dragons by 1 as well, didn't he? Can't say Dragons by 5 or 6. No, Dragons by 1.
No, Dragons by 1.
Oh.
And then Ospreys, Connor, I've gone Ospreys by 9 on that one. So, yeah. Oh, I'm predicting 4 Welsh wins. Yeah,
That'd be great.
Yeah,
It would
lovely.
be nice, wouldn't it? That would be a boost for everyone in Welsh rugby.
Absolutely. And it would take people 2 or 3 days to start moaning about something then. As they'd have to have 2 or 3 days off.
Now, let's hope you're right.
Add an extra region.
Yeah. If 4 of us can win, surely we need a 5th region. That's
In North Wales.
yeah.
Oh, don't start that bollocks, please. I
I
can't cope with it.
I'm a North Walian and I taught this load of bollocks.
Oh, Nick. Oh, dear. I know. It's just.
Right.
Oh.
On that one, gents, thank you very much for your time. Harley will be back next week. There'll be a couple of people sitting in and moving out next week because we've got various bits and bobs on. But join us again to have a chat about more of the same. And until then, enjoy your rugby. All the best.
Ta-ra, everyone.
I'll start by.